What's up, Crowdfunding Nation? Salvador Briggman here, and welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. If this is your first time, we really dissect, get into the inner workings and what's happening behind the scenes of major crowdfunding campaigns. We look into the machinery. We really, talk about the shop work, get into the nuts and bolts of how to actually go out there and crush it with your crowdfunding campaign. And really, to me, not only is this my passion, I got started in 2015 with this podcast in the industry, in 2012 with my blog, crowdcrux.com. But I think this is really about moving you forward in life. Sometimes you're doing one thing and it's great. Other people maybe view you even as successful, but you want to do something different with your life. You want to build a new product. You want to get invention out there. Maybe you want to raise money even for like a book or a tabletop or a card game or a film, or it could be anything. And you want to use crowdfunding as a way to make that transition happen. And I think that's a great example of today's podcast guest, who actually was a medical doctor, but he decided he wanted to make a bigger impact in life, and he wanted to build a brand. So he started to try out different things, different businesses, and one of the ones he stumbled on is actually a product that he launched on Indiegogo, which raised over $3 million. Actually, just now, $4 million on Indiegogo, now that he's Indiegogo in demand. That's insane. And he was able to attract more than 8,500 backers with this Indiegogo campaign. And he's going to tell you it all. He's going to tell you the story. He's going to also tell you the lessons that he learned, the important lesson that he learned about the Indiegogo algorithm, how to really set up success if you're doing this and you're launching a campaign from home. And I think that one of the big ones that I took away is this one thing you gotta have if you want to go viral with your campaign. So a lot of cool stuff. And actually, a bonus I would say as well is he shared some incredible advice on the topic of PR. And that's because he was able to get into some major media publications. He was actually able to get onto the Ellen Show and a lot of other, incredible publications when it comes to that. And he spilled the beans on what you got to do if that's something that you want to fit into your brand strategy, into your marketing strategy, how the heck to get onto these major media publications. So you're going to hear about that in just a second. And if you really want to make progress this year, I know that sometimes we go into an upcoming year and it's like, you know what? I just want to get this out there, man. I've been thinking about this too long. I've been sitting on my hands too long, and I just want to make sure that I make the most of my time when it comes to a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, could be WeFunder, could be another site, right? Doesn't matter. And I want to really go big with this. If that sounds like you, and you really want just a tiny bit of guidance when it comes to this PR element, if you want to get media hits, if you want to get media attention, if you want to, from day one, really be aware of what you got to do in order to get major headlines, to get on even television programs, those kinds of things, I actually have a free course out there. Not many people know this. I have a free course out there on PR. And I've had incredible results from students who have gone through that free course. So if you want to learn more about this, you just got to go to the link at crowdcrux.com/PR. That link will take you to my free course on how to get into the media and smash your crowdfunding campaign goal at the link crowdcrux.com/PR. Again, that link, crowdcrux.com/PR. Not super creative with my naming conventions there. But the last one before we get into today's episode is for those of you who are still in the beginning and learning phases, but you also want to understand a little bit more of what's happening behind the iceberg, in the sort of lower regions, and really understand what you got to do in order to be successful from more of like a tactical angle, from more of a technique angle. I have a great free book out there called the Kickstarter Launch Formula. That book is available on Audible. It's a great investment if you just want to turn the times that you're, cleaning the room, or you're washing dishes, or you're going out there and you're going to the gym, or, whatever it is, you're even walking in the park. If you want to turn that time into a time of learning and to really educate yourself and download this information seamlessly into your mind, it's a great way to do two things at once, and in that way, you're way more productive, way more effective in life. Go to the link at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, and you can download a free copy of that audiobook at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Without further ado, let's jump into today's podcast episode and discover what went behind this $4 million Indiegogo campaign. It's coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we are speaking with an exceptional entrepreneur and creator who has launched BionicGym Weight Loss in a Box. This campaign has raised over $4 million from more than 8,500 backers, and this is not his first at bat. He's also launched another successful campaign as well. We are lucky enough to be talking to Lewis. Lewis, welcome to the podcast.
Lovely to be here, Sal, and thanks very much for having me, and hello, everybody.
So you have quite the background, my friend. Maybe you could, just fill in some gaps in that introduction and tell the listeners a bit more about you.
Fair enough. I'm a medical doctor originally. Part of my problem as such was that when I was, doing the hospital rounds, I'd be redesigning the beds, and people would be telling me their problems, and I'd want to solve them with physical things. So
I'm sure the nurses love that.
Yeah, they probably have a story or two. But anyway, so I had to get out, because I was interested in kind of design and that, and you can't really play around with your patients, unfortunately. Don't misconstruct that in any way. You need to have proper technology to try on people, and that's difficult to do in an Irish context, in an Irish hospital. So I needed to get out into design, into industry, and I ended up in electrical stimulation. So I spent some time in industry there, and then I had a software company for a short while, simply because software is so much easier. And then next I was back in university again, and I was doing research on this technology once more, the electrical stimulation. People might know it from the ad belts and that type of thing, and they have a bad reputation. But the underlying technology is extraordinary, and I'll come back to that. So
from what I understand, I mean, it sounds like you've had a couple of different inventions here, right?
Oh, like over the years, it's inventions are easy. Business is difficult. That's my experience. It's one thing to have the idea, and this is why podcasts like yourself are so important. For many people, ideas are easy. But it's transforming that into something which people can buy and will benefit from. That's the hard part, at least very hard for me. It's the invention. I'll give you another one in an hour.
So, I mean, in thinking about this, I mean, having a nice, cushy life as a medical doctor, being able to clock in, clock out, that sounds pretty luxurious, right? Of course, there's some challenges as well. But why decide to kind of throw that away and really go into uncharted territory and, come up with these new inventions? Can you tell us a little bit about what motivated you there?
Yes, I did a bit like my mother. There are only two things in Ireland which you always drop out of. One is the priesthood, and the other is medicine. So you always drop out of medicine. It's not as if, there's a thinking nothing can be better. But yes, it was a risk, and both kind of needed to do it. And I don't get me wrong, I love medicine. Medicine is, especially when you're dealing with patients directly, and you can do something for them, and then they go out, especially if they can get better quickly. Something like orthopedics, they come in with a broken arm, you put them in a cast, and you send them home. That is all lovely and straightforward. But yeah, I needed to try something else, such that my ideas can get on kind of many people. And I'm still in the process. We're not the great success that I feel we could be and should be. And we're probably actually going to go for investment at some stage in the near future, simply because we need to kind of start scaling and, becoming a mainstream brand.
Yeah. Tell me the story a little bit of how you came up with the idea for BionicGym. Like, walk me through just that a tiny bit.
Well, I'm at a happy conjunction of medicine, physiology, and engineering. And one of the things was with this electrical stimulation, we just trigger nerves, and those nerves do whatever hopefully we tell it to do. And we just have a better way of talking to the nervous system. And we could cajole it into doing what we want, but what the body was set up, the epiphany as such came to me in relation to BionicGym, because BionicGym essentially it exercises people, and it delivers genuine, intense, vigorous exercise. We can do certain things which you can't even do yourself in certain intensities. And then other things like I can get my heart rate up to 200 beats per minute. I used to be when I
Wow.
was slightly younger. With this, you'd be sweating, you'd be breathless. I've done the equivalent of a marathon on my couch watching TV. So
Wow.
all these things are really possible. And but I had to figure out kind of how does the body burn calories without doing anything? Because we wanted this to work on people with spinal cord injury, in addition to people like myself who might be just a little bit lazy or whatever. So the epiphany came kind of when I was in the Irish Sea swimming. It was very, very cold. And I got out and I was shivering. And I really shiver quite a lot. And shivering is nature's hack to kind of burn calories. And we shiver in it starts at a particular frequency. And because there's an optimal frequency for calorie burn, which is kind of different to what you'd expect. You'd expect it, the faster and faster you shiver, the more calories you burn. But you don't. You shiver at 7 to 8 hertz. And
Interesting.
if you shift the frequency up, the calorie consumption actually goes down, not up. And because the energy is consumed in the shortening and lengthening, the cycle of this shortening and lengthening of muscle fibers. And if we could just mimic this with electrical stimulation, we'd be able to start burning serious amounts of calories. And this technology could become an alternative, vigorous form of exercise, not just for people with strokes, but for regular people, for you, for me, and of course, everybody else will benefit too.
So that I understand, yeah, I mean, this, for someone who's listening, it sounds like this is something that can be an addition to or almost replace cardio, which is one of the things like every gym goer hates doing, right? Like cardio day.
Yeah, especially the men.
So is that how I would characterize it?
I mean, we love all exercise, so we're not against gyms. Go to the gym, add this in when you've no time to go to the gym. Or if you're, I've got kind of, I've both my knees had cruciate ligament repairs. I'd ruptured them both. Playing soccer, it's a dangerous game. But, I couldn't run for a long while. I couldn't really partake in regular exercise, but I could do BionicGym. And, and then there are all these people with kind of everybody from, spinal cord injury just to, they're busy. They have to take care of their kids. And that's what we do. We can kind of just offer an alternative form of exercise, and it can be in addition to the gym or sometimes the replacement, all those kind of cardio.
So from what I understand, you have launched 2 campaigns on Indiegogo. Is that correct?
Well, what we kind of reactivated a campaign there. So we had our original campaign, which was very successful, and then Indiegogo gave us an opportunity just to make a modification to it and relaunch it there.
Got it.
We'll do a complete reversion as well, a new iteration within 6 months, because crowdfunding can be good.
In thinking about this, doing an Indiegogo campaign, what made you decide to go with Indiegogo compared to other platforms that are out there? And had you heard about crowdfunding before pursuing this path?
I'd heard about it, but I didn't know anybody who actually did it. And there were kind of few enough success stories, certainly in Ireland, about it. I sought out one person who'd had a moderate success, and tried to chat to him. He didn't put me off enough. But the reason why I went with Indiegogo is because at the time it was really just Indiegogo and Kickstarter. We have a quasi-medical product. And Kickstarter were unsure if they'd be able to take us or not. Whereas Indiegogo said, so long as you can sell your product in the USA, that's good to go. And as long as you're not making medical claims, you're good to go. So we were happy with that. And so we went with Indiegogo then. And for us, it was a good choice. I know a lot of people go with Kickstarter and then move on to Indiegogo, but horses for courses.
Right, right. So, in thinking about the Indiegogo, it looks like one of your takeaways was this idea of setting yourself up for success. What was that experience like going live on Indiegogo? What happened after the first week? What was really your experience like when you went live?
Well, kind of terrifying. Put a lot of preparation in and didn't know whether it would work or not. It was mainly myself doing it, and there was an excellent engineer as well, Barry at the time. But I created all the videos and, prepared all the emails in advance myself, and the marketing material and PR material. But I didn't know if any of it would actually stick. And
Mm,
I see in your site here, the CrowdCrux site, that quite often the go-go factor, as they call it, as you've called it in the past, you need to play the algorithms. And the only reason to be on, for a small individual or a small team of entrepreneurs to be on crowdfunding is that the crowdfunding platform essentially promotes you.
mm,
You're just doing it yourself, essentially, and you're paying for all this advertising. You really need to leverage the crowdfunding ecosystem to garner your sales, because a crowdfunding sale or kind of a backer is so much more difficult to get than somebody in the real world, because
right.
you're telling them a promise. And so the big thing was, could we get Indiegogo to notice us and then promote us? And so, we were playing the algorithm, which is necessary. I'm sure it's changed now. So, I don't even want to give any recommendations there. And Sal, you'll know much better than I would
Right.
now exactly what the formula is.
But yeah, it sounds like your experience was, number one, you were preparing, right? You really
Yeah.
put in the preparation. It sounds like you also built a bit of an email list and you went live there. What was the reaction like? Like, were people, writing in? What were your friends and family saying? What was the reaction like to the campaign?
Thankfully, I kind of, in the first kind of 24 hours, we got either 20, 25,000 or something. And that was enough to kind of get noticed. Some of this was practically done. Some of it was very kind friends, maybe, 10K from people who, they knew me. They were lined up to purchase. And this was all in advance. They were given, purchase at this time of day on this day. And,
Mhm.
and they very kindly did. And that really facilitated and helped. And from there, it just partly snowballed. We had a small advertising budget. Part of the problem with crowdfunding is, you know, if you have a budget, you don't need to crowdfund. Like, almost by definition, you're broke,
Right.
which is a difficult thing, and it is expensive. There's no two ways getting around it.
Mhm.
It is expensive, particularly if you go down the kind of Facebook advertising route. And
Right. Right.
from you'd know better, having seen much more campaigns, but certainly for us, it seemed the only way to realistically drive traffic what was through Facebook advertising. And we just didn't have a pre-existing ecosystem and audiences, that of the scale that would be required to realistically fund the campaign.
In looking at this, I mean, you had incredible success. You're doing 400K. It looks like 1,000 backers, and then you just like exploded, right? I mean, you guys got to the over the $3 million mark, almost 4 million. Did that just kind of happen out of nowhere, or did people continue to trickle in, or what was the story
Uh,
behind that?
Mainly trickling in response to advertising, and then with the certainly back in the original campaign, the Indiegogo email list was really powerful. So
Wow.
we were doing really well for them, and did put his headline an email for us, and we'd get 50K in sales very easily.
Jeez.
And those days, I used to have a ticker on my phone, and it would ching every time we got a sale. and it would be just chilling all day long. It was just great.
That's super cool. Super cool. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. In kind of listening to you speak, you kind of have this great background and you're obviously like a super smart guy. And yet one thing I noticed about you is that you've been able to really build relationships and connections with other people. Can you speak to that point just a tiny bit about, surrounding yourself with the right people and how this is kind of like a team effort from what I understand?
Yes, that's absolutely required, and in fact, it's one of my failings. And maybe you recognize the fact that I mentioned it in the prep because it's a failing of mine that I didn't do this enough. But I will just mention the backers first of all, just in relation to relationships. The crowdfunding backers are a special group of people, and they give you money in hope of getting something back, and they give you money on trust and expectation. They do like your product, and they think it could be really cool if it works. But they also know that most crowdfunding projects fail, and if they've been at it for a while, they've had many duds that they gave money to and nothing really came back. So being honest with them, being straightforward is hugely important. And I found that they put their trust in me, and I spent an awful lot of time kind of just, in the early days, I would Skype individual or Zoom individual backers on occasion. And it generally turned out really well. A, was an interesting bunch by and large, but B, it often led on to something else as well. So do take special care of your backers because they've put their trust in you and they've put their faith in you. And, there's a reasonable chance you won't be able to deliver because if you knew you were going to deliver, you wouldn't be doing crowdfunding. You'd have a surer way.
Yeah, I think that's like a great testament to, really having a personal touch. And, you talk about scaling, but also doing things that don't scale just to understand your customer base. I think that says a lot about your brand, to be honest.
We're very fortunate, and we managed to build a colleague, Toya, who in particular was really good in the kind of community section, and we built a very powerful kind of beta backer group. So these are people who tested our beta product, and they gave really good feedback, and they tested it properly, and it was kind of great to see as well. And they also gave motivation for others to kind of stick with us. Because as it turned out, our product was really quite delayed, with problems with the FDA and with problems with our manufacturing as well. We went with an Irish manufacturer, and that meant A, it would be expensive, but B, unfortunately, it just didn't work for us. And then we had to shift manufacturing, and that was a very costly and very time-consuming process.
Understood. One of the things that just in listening as well, I'm taking away, I think for a lot of people, this might be their first time ever launching a product into the world or doing a campaign. You've gone from, studying a base of medical knowledge to then launching a software company to then doing e-commerce. When you're going out there and you're trying to pursue something new, are there any tips that you have to really learn that quickly? Are you reading books? Are you watching videos? Like, how are you transitioning into those different verticals?
My main advice is don't do it, or do it on somebody else's money if you can. It's hard, but soak up all the information that you can. I know your site has some kind of good repository of information there, which is great. A lot of stuff on YouTube as well now, and the books tend to be out of date by the time they're in physical form. But do your prep, do your research. It's out there now. and be realistic as well. A lot of people, like you only hear about your successful crowdfunding campaigns by and large. I think a really interesting podcast, Sal, would be sometime to take someone who tried really hard but fails despite having all, a lot of good things going for them. Because this is where probably most people end up. They try really hard, they pump whatever resources they have into it, and they throw their heart into it, but still there's no guarantee of success. And
right.
It's important to hear those voices as well, I think.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I'll definitely write that one down. One other question on kind of what helped you. Were there any software tools or resources that you found to be useful in running the campaign, either on the marketing front or on the project management front, or any kind of tools that you recommend?
All of them, basically. I've now seen my own videos as well. But so I made the bad mistake of using Adobe, and it was I had an old computer, I couldn't afford a new one, and I was editing stuff and I couldn't even see on the screen what was being edited. But yeah, all the standard software. One thing I would recommend against is the standard PR software. At least my experience with them is that you can spend a lot of time banging off news wires and stuff like that, and they just get inundated with them, and you need another approach to that to have any chance of success.
Well, you were able to get on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Sunday Times, GQ, right? A bunch of these different media publications.
All the good ones. Like we were on a few different TV programs, and like big TV hero over in Europe, and the Ellen DeGeneres show, as you said. And then there was another. It was an ABC pilot program they were going to do. They wanted me to be one of their guests.
Did that just come from an email, or was that connecting on LinkedIn, or was that getting a third party to help out? Like, how did you get in front of those major audiences?
This being my point, I'd sent off bucket loads of press releases and everything like that, and I got zero from any of them. Where we did get traction was when they came to us. Somehow or other, they picked us up elsewhere, and they said, "Oh, this seems interesting," and they reached out, and then we'd always get in there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I got on a German TV at one stage by. We were in CES. CES is a big kind of electronics show in Las Vegas. And Indiegogo brought us over there as one of their, very, very kindly brought us over there, as one of their success stories, how, the little guy makes big type thing. And it was wonderful. But we were being ignored by all the TV companies. So I stood in the background while German TV were filming somebody else. And of course, I was using my product and just pumped up the intensity such that I was clearly, like apoplectic, But she came over afterwards then and asked, "Well, what are you doing? What's this?" And then we got on German TV that way. So that was the only time where I managed to kind of doorstep somebody. And I think you need some connection or other, and paying a well-connected PR company, if you've got the funding, is an obvious way to do that.
Right. Well said.
And then in terms of just getting a few kind of trust badges on your site, like there are some kind of companies that sound reasonable that you can just pay to get on. The true crowdfunding and backers, they'll know what's good and what's easy. If you can get into Forbes really easy, or Business Insider, or what these costs. But then there are the genuine ones as well.
Well said. Yeah. So making sure you have some accolades and a little bit of credibility is going to help other people check you out. So I've been learning a lot. I mean, number one, setting yourself up for success, playing the algorithms, making sure that you have a plan when it comes to going live, and most importantly, surrounding yourself with the right people. Where can people go to learn more about your product, your campaign? I know you're now live on In Demand. Where can they go to learn more about this?
BionicGym.com. BionicGym.com. And we're there and we're shipping, and want to take this opportunity again to thank all our backers over all the periods of time. It's the only reason why we're still here. People will also find us on Facebook as well. We have a really thriving community, and we have a women's only community as well, because sometimes weight and exercise can be a personal issue, and the women's community is just so much more pleasant. You'll never find out, Sal, but believe me, so much nicer than when the men are allowed in.
Very supportive, I can imagine, for sure.
Yeah.
For men, it's like, oh, you're not good enough. You gotta, go to the gym harder. You gotta hit those weights, right? Women, it's so much more supportive.
Exactly. But it was interesting, kind of. One way to motivate the guys is kind of. I remember I had one colleague, and so BionicGym goes from 0 to 100, and we tell people to start gradually and slowly increase intensity. And so this guy said he'd take notes and see how he's doing. And after the first day he came in, he said he got up to intensity level 4 and it was fine, And then the next day he said he was up to intensity level 5, And then 2 or 3 days later he'd got up to intensity 10 or something. It was kind of like making a big deal of it. And then he saw my partner. She's my age, so she'd be maybe, I'm in my 50s now, but she was doing a podcast or an Facebook Live with me, and she got her intensity up to kind of 50 or 60. And, and so the very next day, he was an Italian friend as well. He came in and he got his up to 60. So sometimes the guys
competitive guy.
Need a little bit of a, yeah.
Yeah. One other, I just have 2 more questions here, when it comes to our interview. The first one I always find interesting, and you may or may not have a recommendation here, but are there any books, and it could be related to crowdfunding, or it could just be in your life, your business, your profession, that have really made an impact for you that you'd like to recommend on the show? Man's
Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Because no matter how bad in crowdfunding goes for you, things could be a lot worse. And this man will teach you, make you appreciate how good your life really is.
Yeah, that's a really good book. That's definitely a great one. And my final question for you here, I want to be mindful of your time. My final question, and we can end on this note, would be a final tip about crowdfunding, a word of encouragement for people out there that are just getting started, or if you have a quote that you really like, you can end on that note.
I have a quote that I really like, but it's not appropriate to crowdfunding. If you're satisfied with a little, enough is as good as a feast, which is a great approach to life. However, for crowdfunding, I mention it because it's an all or nothing game, really. You need to build yourself up for success, and you need to hit the home run. If you don't need to hit the home run, you've other options and shouldn't be doing crowdfunding. So set yourself up for success. Go first, 100%. And if things don't work out, you'll have given your heart, you'll have done everything you can, and you'll be able to look to yourself in the mirror and say, I did well.
Lewis, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing your success here with BionicGym.
Wonderful. Listen, thank you, Sal. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and oh man, do I appreciate you for listening to this episode. And if you did find it to be useful and valuable, because I took away some really great nuggets of crowdfunding gold when it came to this episode. And many people don't know, I use this as well as a great platform just to be a fly in the wall and to understand the inner workings, the dynamics, and the trends when it comes to crowdfunding. So I'm always up in my game, and I hope that you are as well, kind of listening to these guests and these mentors at the same time. If you do enjoy this show, leave a positive rating and review on iTunes. It will make an impact. It will let other people know this is worth their time, and it shows that you value high quality education and podcasts just like this. If you want to go a little bit deeper when it comes to this launch, and you want to make sure you do it right, you dot your I's, you cross your T's, you set a strong foundation going into your campaign. And not only do you get the blueprint behind your launch, but also personalized attention. There's nothing like, you could read a book on learning how to golf, right? Or you can watch some YouTube videos on learning how to golf, but it's another thing entirely when you have a golf pro, an instructor who's there, who's looking at your swing, who's analyzing that, who's changing the trajectory a little bit, and all of a sudden you're shooting straight down the course and, super far with that ball versus before you were struggling and maybe shooting into the water, right? Another thing would be any kind of area in life. If you're going out there and trying to do something big, usually if you're buying a house, you're buying real estate, you're buying a business, you're probably going to get experts involved in that process, whether that's a lawyer or an accountant or a business mentor of some kind, just to make sure that since this is such a big area of your life, that you're going down the path and you're doing things right. And if that's something that you want to incorporate into your crowdfunding campaign launch, I've made myself available to my audience via intensive one-on-one, one-off coaching calls. So basically what you can do is you can go to the link I'm about to mention and you could fill out the form, tell me more about you and what you're trying to accomplish, and you can actually book an individual one-on-one coaching call with me. And I think this is honestly the best investment within this industry to be able to get access to all that war chest of knowledge, information, previous campaigns, techniques, tools, and apply that to your unique case, your unique situation, and make sure that you go into that campaign armed with the tools for success. And in select cases, I also help out on a longer term coaching basis and also with execution as well. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the link at crowdcrux.com/coaching and book your individual one-on-one coaching call today. If you missed that, because I do speak a little bit fast here and you're maybe doing something else, go to the link crowdcrux, crowdcrux.com/coaching. And you can book that individual coaching call. I'll also include that link in the show description as well, or get my people to at crowdcrux.com/coaching. When you go there, you're going to learn a little bit more about the coaching call, and also there's a video there. I would say that a lot of people hesitate and are shy about really doing that and moving through that process, but this is one of the best things you can do to set up your campaign for success and have a much more profound impact the earlier that I am in that process. I can't tell you the number of people who booked a call with me when they're live with a campaign, like, Sal, this is great advice and I applied this and this got some more backers, more pledges, but oh man, I wish I had done this sooner, right? So make sure you do that when you get a chance. But without further ado, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and people like you who are sharing this podcast, who are rating and reviewing it. It means so much to me. You are part of the valuable community when it comes to CrowdCrux and the Crowdfunding Demystified community, because you're an action taker, you're making an impact on the world, and you're moving forward with ethical business practices as well to impact the world for the positive. So thank you so much. My name is Salvador Briggman, and I'll see you next week.